Ruslan.
Will Smith recently did an interview with GQ about his marriage, his relationship with his intimacy coach, purity culture. Is he a victim of purity culture? We're gonna get into that as well. So make sure you watch till the end of this video. It's gonna be glued together with a practical action step that a lot of you guys are going to appreciate, okay? So let me pull up the quote for you guys, and shout out to Off the Curb Ministries YouTube channel. Off the Curb is the one who I saw this floating from. I think my brother John McCrae is also gonna make a video about this. So here are the quotes from the GQ article. So this is him talking to an intimacy coach, and he says, what the coach was doing was essentially cleaning out my mind, letting it know it was okay to be me and be who I was. He said, all right, that sounds reasonable, right? He has an intimacy coach. He's working through the situation with his wife, the entanglement that she had. You guys remember all of that? I covered that on the channel. And so he gets an intimacy coach, and he's trying to work through this stuff. And so the first part is like, yeah, she's trying to get me to do this. Where it kind of goes left. And it was okay to think Hallie is fine. It doesn't make me a bad person that I'm married and I think Hallie is beautiful. He's talking about Halle Berry. Whereas in my mind, in my Christian upbringing, even my thoughts were sins. Interesting, right? So it kind of takes the left turn. And then here's the final quote that he says, that was really the process. The coach worked through me to let me realize that my thoughts were not sins, and even acting on an impure thought didn't make me a bad word. Okay, it's okay to think Halle is fine, Halle Berry's fine, and Halle Berry is a beautiful woman. But then he says, I was brought up to even think that my thoughts were sins. Now I'm like, well, wait a minute. Is this now purity culture? Is this now Christianity? He's blaming it on Christianity. And then he goes on to say that even, acting on his impure thoughts didn't make him a bad person. And I think when we're talking about these conversations, there's so many different factors that come into play. Now, specifically in Will Smith's situation, and again, Off the Curb Ministry did a good job specifically kind of more tying in marriage and all that kind of stuff. But specifically when we are talking about this conversation of lusting, of coveting versus, hey, I find someone attractive. Okay, there's nothing wrong with acknowledging that so-and-so is attractive. That's a beautiful person. Hey, so-and-so, Halle Berry's beautiful. Whoever, fill in the blank, whoever's beautiful. Okay. The difference, I think, scripturally, is when you then covet or you then desire someone else on a sexual level, where now your fantasy and your thought life begin to control you. It's not a obvious, that person's attractive. Now my thoughts are going to dictate how I feel, and how I feel is going to determine how I act. This is where pathways, patterns, purpose, all these things are connected in the way our brains and our circuitry works. As you think something, then you feel a certain way, then you act on it, right? And if you don't have self-control, then you start doing things that are self-destructive for you. And that's not helpful. Okay, so there's a lot of people that are dealing with this to various degrees. There's a lot of people that are trying to process this, and I've talked about my own struggles with addiction. I've talked about my own struggles growing up and being a survivor of sexual trauma as a child, and then losing my virginity super young, and all these different things. And then that led me on to battle addiction, sexual addiction, porn, all that kind of stuff, right? And so that place is a real place for a lot of us as we're attempting to process our own junk. And so when someone says something like this, it's like a half-truth, right? Like, yeah, your thoughts aren't sinful in and of themselves, but dwelling on someone else's spouse or desiring to be with someone that's not your spouse, in Will Smith's case, and it sounds like it's fairly documented that they have an open marriage, that's where the line gets crossed. And as Christians, it's a similar thing. Hey, you have certain physiological desires because our society has pushed out adulthood further and further, and now there's this totally normalized expectation of people from the age of 18 to 30 to kind of just coast by and not need to provide, not need to get married, not need to move out, and everyone else is bent up all the sexual frustration. And so then you act out, and you usually act out in one of two ways. Two types of people that act out when it's sexual. This is the first person. His name is Hank. If God didn't make me this good looking, well then, it wouldn't be an issue. It's because I'm this good looking. I'm single. I'm 30. You expect me to not indulge? Really? I think it's important to acknowledge that God looks at our heart, and if he had made me this good looking, well then I wouldn't have any temptation. So, it's ultimately God's fault that I keep fornicating, hooking up, one night stands. I still love Jesus in my heart, but I can't help it. Hank is the guy who just makes excuses for himself. He doesn't really think about his entire situation, and so he goes off and he doesn't just have thoughts. He goes on and he connects and he meets girls and he uses apps and he hooks up, and then he shows up to church on Sunday, right? So that's Handsome Hank. And then we all know this person, and I'm gonna call him Isaac. Well, I think we know that it all went left when women got equal rights. When women got equal rights, hypergamy started happening. And it made the average man involuntarily celibate. So what am I supposed to do? It's women's fault. I can't help that I have needs, but girls don't like me. Ruslan keeps telling me to find a wife. Where? Where can I find a wife? There are no good women. Hypergamy. They all went to college. They earn more money than me. Ruslan keeps telling me to lose weight and get in shape. But feminism, hypergamy. So, I'm celibate, but not by choice. So we know that guy. He's not getting any play. He's not getting any action. He is just diving in deep. There's a hostility building towards women. He's angry, and he's just indulging all the way. He's not confident enough to hop on an app. He's that's so far removed from him. And so he's diving in. He's forming these pathways that it starts from just lust, and then it evolves and it escalates to something much darker, much sinister, which he's then full on indulging and dabbling in PORN, and that becomes a stronghold in his life. And there's certain guys that start out like Hank, and over time maybe they get saved and they stop the physical fornication, but they still have lust in their heart, and they dive deeper. And they did studies, and somewhere in the upwards of, I think they said 50 to 60% of pastors have admitted to looking at PORN, which is just mind blowing to think about. So this is an issue that I think is way bigger and way broader than Will Smith. Okay, way bigger and way broader than acknowledging someone's attractive, acknowledging that someone is good looking, right? This is way broader and way bigger of an issue, and it's all connected. It's all rooted in our habits, in our addictions, in our patterns, in our pathways, because those thoughts, if you dwell on, oh, she's so bad, oh, she's so bad, okay, those thoughts will take deep root into your feelings, and those feelings will eventually make you act out. But the opposite and the inverse is true. If you can check those thoughts before they take root in your heart, then your actions can have breakthrough, and you could actually move further along from the type of person you are to the type of person you want to be, or better yet, for the type of person that Jesus has called you to be. Okay, so it really does start in our thought life. It really does start in the way we think and engage with these topics. And no, it's not easy. No, it wasn't easy for me to be molested as a kid, to then lose my virginity at the age of 11, 12, being sexually active, to being, 16 years old, having a girlfriend, and then finally getting saved, all that. And then taking some of those habits, the PRN addiction into my marriage, and then having to finally break it and the stronghold being broken. That wasn't easy, fam. That wasn't easy, okay? But it was actually simple, believe it or not. So, simple, not easy. There's a lot of things in life that are simple, not easy. And I think in Will Smith's situation, no judgment on him. He grew up Christian. Maybe somebody told him that just thinking somebody was attractive was a sin. I've never really heard that. I've always heard it like, if it's one thing to acknowledge a beautiful woman, it's another thing to dwell and then fantasize what would this feel like? What would this, right? That's where that line gets crossed. And maybe somebody told him, maybe he is kind of a victim of a purity culture. Maybe, I don't know, but it doesn't change the fact that a lot of us are sitting here dealing with these things and we're trying to work through them, and we're trying to figure out how do we move further along into being the type of men and women that Jesus has called us to be. And so with that, guys, we're going to be creating something very special for you guys. We are doing a Freedom Forming Habits free course coming up. And by free, I mean free. Like there's no, hey, get this $1,000 thing or get like, this is like legitimately free. We're going to be putting it together. In the meantime, if you go click the link, sign up, there's going to be a playlist more about my journey with conquering addiction. Okay, and it's about, I think, 7 or 8 videos, and it's telling my story and the steps that I took. And there's some stuff in there about nutrition, there's some stuff in there about sleep, there's some stuff in there about all kinds of different things. Okay, so regardless on where you are on the spectrum or what happened, oftentimes the solution is simple, but it's not easy. And I think in Will Smith's solution, we would look at it and we'd be like, fam, you need to reconcile with your wife, you need to stop having an open marriage. No judgment against you, but therein lies the issue. Simple but not easy. Okay, so if you guys want this is private, this is secure, you guys want to hop in, this is going to be the next digital thing that we roll out that I'm super excited about, really just as a means to say, I know if I dealt with this up until a couple years ago and then finally had breakthrough and freedom, I know there's probably other people that watch this channel to deal with this, and I want to do my best to help you. Okay, I want to do my best to help you in the ways that this just worked for me. And trust me, I've done everything. I've done courses, I've done support groups, I've done therapy, I've read the books. And by the grace of God, I've been free for years now. So guys, hopefully this was helpful. If it was, let me know what you think. Be sure to hit that link, sign up, and to check out the habits playlist and the free courses on the way, taking you guys through how to have this simple but not easy breakthrough. All right, love you guys.
King's Dream Entertainment. Ruslan.
Yo, thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. If you found it valuable, make sure you hit that like button and are subscribed. The Love What You Do album and apparel launch is here for a limited time. So if you want to partner with what we're doing here, make sure you hit the link in the description or in the pinned comment to pick you up some Love What You Do apparel to partner with what we're doing here on the channel. Thank you so much. Peace.